Hey, how you doing? We're going to go over a game. It's uh, it's from the Washington State Challengers Cup Reserve in Seattle, Washington. So we're just gonna take a look at that and see how white plays, see how black plays. Doesn't have any words to it, so I'll explain as we go along here. So e4, c5, knight f3, e6, c3, knight f6, e2. This is to expand d4 at the right moment. It's a flexible move sequence that you could, if needed to, you can expand b4 or d4. It also allows for the potential sometimes the queen to come out. So it's a flexible line. I don't play it very much, but it is a playable move. Like knight takes here, so he picked up a pawn. You got to be careful when you pick up pawns, though, like because it could end up being a problem. Like this knight now has to reroute, so d5 is played. So black, in my opinion, has a slight advantage right now because of being a pawn up. Knight f6, and black will be able to develop now and take advantage of his pawn if over time. Let's see here. Knight f, okay, d5 or d4. Knight c. It's kind of a really good French here. This is a really good French for black because black doesn't have a pawn on e5, so it's hey, how you doing? And so that's kind of the idea. And so I was looking at it, and I was like, it's kind of interesting how certain openings could actually transpose into somewhat of a French setup. If black played c4, he'd transpose into a closed French, which is very positional. So that's kind of why black doesn't actually do that. Bishop f4. It does have one thing that the other, yeah. Can you teach more French to us? Okay, will do. I'll do that after this game. The French defense is a unique opening. I gotta say, it's kind of reminds me of the London system. It can actually metamorphosize from a lot of different openings. It can go from the Sicilian all the way in, sometimes even into the Caracal, be brought in. Somehow the Slav can even bring in a French, and also a French can actually turn into a Dutch. So it's kind of a flexible setup. Okay, C takes D. C takes D. So now black's ready. They've created a isolated pawn for white. Then now black's going to basically take scope on it. He has a queen to b6, and potentially he could. Let me see. How could else he? Well, I guess he could play this and here, and then queen b6, and after the knight moves, you have an attack here, here, and there. So that is a playable line. So bishop d6 was played. So they want to trade off a protectorate of, yeah, that is it is a nice one because of yeah, these white is actually 1460 and black is 1569, so it's not going to be like grandmaster chess. They're going to make some inaccurate moves, but how black handled it was pretty nice. Black wants to, because black's up a pawn, and he's got an isolated pawn that he can actually work with against. He wants to trade down and try to go to war against this isolated pawn. So black's idea is to trade off all of the protectorates of d4 and then go after the pawn. And if he can win this pawn, then he's got a typhoon or a monsoon of pawns that are just going to avalanche down on him. So that's why in the French you got to watch if black can clean up the center. Black has these two monster pawns that just come rolling down the board. It's like Harry on steroids, basically, I guess. Harry the H pawn. That's what I mean. Our friend Harry. We use Harry a lot in the London system, so that's why we talk about Harry. Okay, bishop takes bishop, queen takes. Yeah, you just have to know how it sets up. They just go into berserk mode. These two pawns here. They're just like really strong once if they can be free in the French. And this bishop, I'm surprised that black actually did, now that I think about it, trade off his dark squared bishop, because this is actually his good bishop. But I think though that because it's not a solid center, he's okay to do that. You just have to know when to go with it, I guess, sometimes. Knight c3, a6. This is to stop the knight from coming in or the bishop from coming in. Also, this we're going to cramp down on white's position too, so we're going to go for a pretty big, massive attack there. So a6, okay. Oh, he played a passive move, a3. He's trying to prevent black from coming in, but that's not what black actually wants. Potentially black could come in to b3 at this point. So same thing with white. b6 and b3 are now outposts. Okay, castles for black, and queen d3. I think white's just messing around too much. Yeah. That's the only problem with the French bishop. It's the light squared bishop. Grandmaster Simon Williams talks about that in some Frenches you want to have your bishop on d7, because it can shoot out this way, and then sometimes it can reroute via out to here. Like there's a Niall Short game that I was studying. He was playing against Alexander Grushchuk, and Niall Short was able to beat Alexander Grushchuk with the French. He used Grandmaster Simon Williams calls it the rover, or the rerouting. Some say rook. I call it the reroute bishop move. Because in the French you want to get f6 to break up the center, and so that's how you get your bishop out to h2. Sometimes when the queen and the knight are like that, so you have to be on the lookout for opportunities to activate your bishop. It's going to be a little, if black doesn't get his light squared bishop going, he's going to be out a whole piece, even though he's up a pawn. Let's see here. So castles, queen d3, b6. So he's trying to get it this way. I think what he's trying to do is get the pawn on a5 and then bring his bishop to a6. Let's see if he does that. b4. This is an interesting move. Oh yeah, that makes sense. This is a interesting move sequence too. That if takes, and if rook comes over, you have bishop here, and then you could trade off your bishop. And now black is doing really good here, because he's down to this isolated pawn, and the bishops are the bad bishop's off the board for white's good bishop. So black can gang up on this pawn later on with a king and rook endgame and go after this here. Go after this pawn. Okay, so d6 there. B. Okay, let's see, what did he play? Oh, bishop b7. Which you have to always ask yourself what Grandmaster Simon Williams said in his Killer French. What does my piece do for me? He also has a Grandmaster method that he does. You have to ask yourself, am I just moving a piece, or is my piece actually doing something? Because I don't know if this was actually a well-placed piece. Potentially, I know this sounds odd, but bishop to d7, if you're not going to push this or push this, would be a good idea. After knight here, then you can actually reroute your knight back, or actually start here to guard here, that's what I mean. And then if he like plays h6, h3 to get a thing, you could play the knight here. And if knight takes, bishop takes. This is just an idea. And then you kind of traded off your bad bishop again. So and then b7. Okay, so we got to promote this to the main line. b7. Okay, a4 to go after this pawn. Knight d8. I think I would have played more knight f and then tried to go in here. There's really no problem with this pawn. This queen guards it, and if a rook ever slides over, rook c fc1, you will always have rook f c8. And now you can expel the knight with a b5 if needed to, if you need to. But this just blocks in your pieces. This is not a coordinating move. I think what he wants to do is play knight to d7, but then what is your knight actually doing there? You know, you have to always ask yourself, what is this knight actually doing? Knight c, yeah. b6 is weak, but it's not weak enough that the reason white went back is white already provoked black to waste tempo, and so knight bd7, and now I think black wants to play e5 to break, but now black, the only move that black really has is b5 and knight b6 into c4. Here, and outpost up there. He could do that, and then he also has a potential outpost on e4, so it's playable. h3. I think in my opinion, I think some of these players don't play with a plan. That's just my opinion. Because some of these moves, I don't even see an idea based on, like, my teacher told me that you never play a move that's a one idea move. Like this one idea is for king safety, and that's it. If king safety is an idea, yeah. If king safety is an idea, like this is h3 is a good move, but you have to remember why is it a good move, because now you can reroute your knight to g4 if need be. You have to come up. He always says at least come up with some creative reasons for your move. And it was kind of funny, some of the ideas that I had. They were pretty creative, but they weren't part of my plan. Sometimes I would shift plans, and he says that's the worst thing you could do. If the plan, he told me, if the plan doesn't destroy your position or checkmate you, it's better to stick with a half okay plan than to switch to plans right in the middle of a battle. That's a sure sign of you're going to go down in flames, because you have your forces over here. Then it's like, oh, I want to attack on the king side. All my pieces are on the queen side. That's a pretty good trick if you could do that. But I doubt you. That would be a miracle. It'd be like, having a genie and 3 wishes. I would like my first wish to be all my pieces on one side, on the king side again. And that doesn't happen. So h3. Okay, rook a c8. Oh, having a little too much fun tonight. You got. It's like there. I think Webber says, Yazzer said that chess shouldn't be this much fun. So I was quoting from a Yazzer statement from Yazzer Seirawan, Grandmaster. Let me see here. So rook ac1. Oh, ac1. Got it. I knew I forgot something. Sometimes they put the writing so small, I have to do it with my finger to go along with it so I can read it. Sometimes I have to go back up. So a problem with some of those news articles. Rook, nope, not rook takes. Hold on. Okay, rook. Oh, rook c8. That's right. I got it. Now he wants to shift over. This makes more sense. Rook fd1. fc8. There we go. Now we got our battering ram, and we're starting to pound on through. So a2. Okay. Rook takes. Rook takes. Rook takes. Knight takes. And queen c7. So he's trying everything now to get the position going. Knight a3, r2, knight e4. There we go. So an idea that potentially could be played here. This knight really isn't doing much, so I can see that this is a problem. I see kind of what his idea is. He may want to play f6, then go b6, knight b6 into c4. You could actually do that. Knight a3, knight e4. Oh, hold on. Do I have e4? Yep. Knight d2. Trying to trade off knights. Knight d f6. Knight takes e. Knight takes e. And bishop f3. Knight d6. Yeah, that's an interesting. Nice. Hey, how you doing? Knight to c4 is a good move here. Bishop e3. Knight e4 again. Why did he go? Why not just go in here and then prepare f and then get your break going? But He didn't do that. He went back here. Yeah, I was looking at f5. The only problem with f5 though is you put another pawn on the color of your bishop. So to make this bishop a good bishop, you have to take it off the colors of your bishop. And all we have to do is somehow nuke this pawn off the board, and then get our pawn rolling. And that's going to be a little bit of work since we've traded down a little too much. There, he plays f5. You were right on, right on. He played f5. Bishop takes. Wow, I can't believe he did that. F takes. That. Wow. I know it's a closed position, but that's very reckless. Queen c3. Queen takes. Knight takes. Okay, now it's still, because of the pawn advantage, it's still better for black, but he's not going to feel it as good as if he had a queen on the board. But he's probably pretty relieved that that everything's okay now. So he played b5, king h2. Now it's time to get the kings involved. King f7, king g3. So the kings are coming up the board. g5. So he's like f4. E takes f. King takes f. And then h5. g3. Surprisingly, I have no idea how he didn't win this game. This was a shock. I'd play, I know this sounds funny, I'd play actually e5 here. Hopefully he did. He played g3. He played king f6. We'll play king f6, but I like this move here. Because then if pawn takes, do you see the move that wins for black? Yeah, d4. Even though he can block, you push, and if he comes over, you push, and let's see. Actually, sorry. You take here. That's right. My bad. A little too hasty on my pushes. I gotta delete that. And you take here, and when he takes back, the pawn runs. Yeah, the pawn runs, and there's no way to stop it at that point. Because if you tried pushing, but without taking the knight can just grab your pawn here, and then white's winning at that point. So you don't want that. He lost it, and he's still one pawn up, but I still think that e5 is a better move. But that's just me. Let's see here. Where are we? Oh, we're on move 36. Okay, I gotta get to 36. Hold on. G4. He took here, which I don't think is the best. Surprisingly, in my opinion, I think locking down is better. Locking down. He took. Let's see what the computer thinks about taking. Oh, it is better. It likes taking better. And then takes. And probably then e5. at this point would be stronger. Actually, you can't play there because that would lose a piece to a fork. Well, that loses to there. So, man, this is a kind of lost position. If only he could see that move. Okay, H takes. Hold on, I gotta make sure I'm on the right track. So G, H takes G. Hold on. H takes G. Ah, he did play E5. Okay, E6, E3. Promote. Nice, he did find that. That was a good move. Okay, so I'm just looking to see. I'm trying to figure out what would be a good move. He played King E6 here. I'm just thinking, what if he played probably this. And then we get our king in. Then we bring our king in. So that's probably the idea. King E3. Okay, we got that. King E6. 40 is knight D1. King D6. Knight F2. I think I see the idea. He wants to play his bishop here and see if he can't take scope on that pawn. E takes, king takes, and bishop C8. 95. Oops, wrong. Knight H3, sorry. Bishop takes G, knight takes G, and then bishop E2. He's trying to cement his bishop here. It's a plain old draw now. Knight F2, knight F7, king C6, knight E5, king D6, knight F7, king E7, knight E5, bishop C4, knight G4, king D6, knight E3, king C6. I think it's just going to go to a draw now. E5, bishop B3, king D4, king D6, F5, king E6, knight E3, Bishop c4. He's trying, probably getting low on time here. Still a draw. King f5. Knight e3. I think this is losing for white, for black, because of this here. Yep. Anyway, 52 or 57. Hold on. Gotta delete this. King e6 was played, and then knight c2, and they agreed to a draw at this point. Because there's no way to make any progress. So that was an interesting game, to say the least. How it could actually, you could transpose a c5 pawn move into a somewhat of a French defense setup. It's a French defense without the e5 pawn. Advanced, I mean, it's kind of like an advanced French, but without the e5 pawn. Okay, let's. We were going to go over some French that we wanted to talk about. Okay, I'll have to turn the board. Okay, e4, e6, and then e4, e6, d4, and d5. This is the French defense setup here. This is the starting position. Then there's 4 different lines. There's the Tarrasch variation, knight d2, that white can play knight c3. And this also can transpose into 2 different lines. The Winier, or the classic, and this transposes into the advanced variation. There's the exchange variation, and I believe that's the those are the only like 4. There's some like Sicilian moves like G3, but I haven't seen any like that. But there's some wild moves like that, or potentially there's B3 with some wildness. I don't think I've ever seen an A3, but you never know, you might get that, or a potential H3. But a Morphy's Gambit, I didn't know that. So that's a Morphy's Gambit. Huh. Interesting. So if takes, and then bishop here, okay. And then you cement your pawn, and basically, that's interesting. There's different type of gambits, and then there's a gambit here, e2, if you wanted to knight e2, but I wouldn't play a gambit in the French. This is the French So which line do you want to go over? The Tarrasch, the Classic, the Linear, the Classic, the Exchange, the Advanced. Which ones would you like to go over? Do you have any preference of one you want to go over? Play OK 2274. Do you have any preference? We can go over the advanced variation, which has a couple of lines. That's what we'll do. Well, the advanced variation goes out to like move 5 before you really have to worry about anything. These are the standard moves. So the first 5 moves are standard: E4, E6, D4, D5, E5, C5, E3, knight C6, and then knight F3 is your first standard. Then from there you have deviations over that. This is what you're going to see most in club level. This type of play, because it's 5 moves out. At this point, you'd play Bishop D, and then if Knight goes to A3 here, Ginger talked about this, that this is the only time that you take at this point. Then he takes, and you can actually potentially check here. Or he has Queen B6, and when the knight comes back to oops, yikes, sorry, I made a mistake there. Let me see here. Oh, here, this is actually a line, and now the knight guard's there. He comes out here, castles, knight here, then knight tries to trade off for this knight, so we do, and then now we get our bishop traded off, and we have our bad bishop traded off. There's also like another way that you can do that too, is after like bishop here, or actually I think there's one like this here, and then if the knight comes, our bishop comes out here, you could take. Well, actually, you wouldn't want to take. You'd probably have to take with the knight, and then knight takes. Probably. What do you want to do? Pawn takes, bishop takes. Bishop takes, knight takes. Something similar to this type of a setup. But the whole purpose is, let's say that they go bishop here, so we take and pawn takes. We play knight here, he plays, let's say, bishop here, we play knight in here, he castles, we play bishop up, and then let's say, I'm just making some just random moves, and then let's say here, and we'll say b5. You can get your bishop out via this way. You come up, boom, after castles and the pawn's gone, you can come up this way and get your bishop out. And then there's a way to get it out too. If the knight moves here, you can actually potentially get it out via this way too. There's a lot of different ways to get the knight out. Okay, but that's the advanced variation. So let's take a look at the Tarrasch variation. Knight f6, pawn, and then the Tarrasch is more positional. You can actually at this point play knight f6 here, or sometimes what they'll do is play knight d f3. It's actually what is played, because if you play the other knight out, that's called the universal system. So c5, c3, knight c6, and or potentially if you're in dire need of getting rid of the bishop, and let's just say something like this, you can actually in theory get rid of the bishop this way too. This has happened before, so many different ways. And if they try to stop that, with something like, you can even play up here if they try to stop that. There's a whole bunch of lines, like, so knight there. This is mainly the common line. Bishop here, pawn takes, and then queen to b6 with this idea. Then if a3, then we play f6. If he tries to come in here, you can actually play bishop up. Queen check is a somewhat of a problem, so you have to sometimes move, and so you got to be careful when you break with f. So maybe this here castles, and then f6 is actually a better idea. f6 here, takes, pawn takes. Then you actually can potentially win a pawn here. Actually a piece, actually a pawn, yeah. And bishop there. So that's how the setup of the Tarrasch. Then one that has a really long line is the Winier variation, and this is here c5, and at this point you play here. The queen comes here, you can castle. If bishop comes out trying to take scope here, you can actually push. He comes back, and then the knight, and f6 is a playable move. If here, you have to be careful. So probably usually you don't play that. Usually you don't castle. You can actually gambit if you wanted to, and play c here. f4. Knight, and if like pawn here to cover this up so that there's no attack, you can actually go d5, and if he takes here, then you take back, takes, and you have an attack like that. And then if he comes back here, you can actually castle queenside and threaten a discovery onto the queen. That's the Winier. So let's take a look at the classic. This is the classic variation. And then c4, c5 is forced. Bishop here. You'd probably have to take, and then I haven't played the classic in a while, so you gotta bear with me. It's something similar to this, and then f6, and then after takes, knight takes, and you control the center. C takes D, C takes D. This is the exchange, and from here you can actually play a solid line. Varakobian, I think, has a line very similar to this. He talks about like a 17 move combination that could happen here. And let me see here. say if your opponent's copycat, yeah, and then you play here. Hold on, I had to do this right. After this, that's right, here. Hold on. Let's see, there. Here we go. Now we're in the right. We're in the right stream of everything. Okay. And at this point, you're slightly better and more comfortable because your opponent pushed here. So he has to exchange, and your pawn structure is slightly better. So it's something to do with the copycat of that line. Then there's let me see here. There's this line, and white has C2, C4. Bishop D3 is actually what's played. So they have C4, D3, and knight F. And this, if you want more dynamic play, C takes, C5, pawn takes, bishop takes, then you're playing more dynamic with your isolated pawn because you have more space in the center. If you don't want to do that, but you kind of just want to stay solid, you can always go C6. He says if you play here, and you kind of want to, you then at this point want to play knight F6, because if pawn takes, then you barricade the pawn with there. And if knight, if rather than C5, if knight goes F, you can actually potentially, you don't want to play C5, you probably just want to go solid at that point with C6. And that's kind of the majority of the lines in a nutshell. Let me get a drink. Okay, warm-up time. We're going to do some simple puzzles, simple checkmates, and then we'll get into our positional play then. White to move. Rook takes A1. That is true. Good job. Hey, you're more than welcome to join in. What is the what's the checkmates? H6. Yep, there you go. And then we'll go to the next. Let's see, have we done these ones already? I think we have. These look very familiar. We'll do them anyways because it never hurts to do puzzles. Refresher. That's what we'll call it. I think we have it. I think these I don't remember these here. Oh, yesterday? Okay. Then I better turn to the next page then. Okay, I must not have turned the page. We'll do one more here. Whatever. What do you think the move is? Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll board edit this. Okay, let's get these pieces off the board. Now we're gonna get into more intensive setups here. Oops, 1 second. Oops, sorry, hold on. I had to put it as black to move. Ah, come on. Okay. Rook. C1. That is mate. Yeah, it's good to always do these ones. It's good to keep. This one is a unique one here. You're gonna like this one. What's the move for black? Are you sure C2? Ah, there we go. F2, that is right. Checkmate. Black to move. We'll do 3 more. This one, and then there's three more on the page, and we're good. Rook H1. I see. Yep, that's right. We'll do after this one. There'll only be 2 more. Come on. Let's see if you got it. What do you think the puzzle is here? It's mate and 1. Yeah, because this pawn stops that. There's actually 2 checks in this line. 1 wins and 1 doesn't. This rook A1 is mate. And we'll do 1 more. And then we'll start. We're going to do some. I'm actually going to go into endgame. because I want to spend a little bit more time in the end game than positional play. Two more. Actually, after this one, it's one more after this one. Ooh, this is an interesting one here. So what is black to move? Black to move. Oh, board is flipped. Okay, I'll turn the board. There we go. Yep, there you go. That's right. Good work. Good work. You guys are getting it. Nice job. Nice work. One more. This is it. This is the last one. This is the last stand. This is it. And I'll turn the board. I think I have the board right this time. Do I? Nope. I gotta turn it. Sorry. Hold on. So it's easier. There you go. Ah. Black to move. Yes, nice job. Good work. Hey Erie, do you think do you think it's H8 too? Rook H8. All right, then we're all in agreement. Hooray! That was right. Good job. Okay. We learned yesterday how to actually checkmate with when a king's here, even if oops, hold on, I gotta make it white. White's king needs to be there. White king, queen, here, here. Get a rook off the board. First you check. Remember, we first have to check in here. Then we check here, and then once we get here, we have to now we can come, and after this, then we come here. Remember, exclaim. And now that he comes up, we walk, and then here. Remember this? And then you remember how we did all this? Now that the king's close enough, the king has to come in front. And then when the king comes over here, you take, and the king goes there. And then when the king moves, it's all based on keep pushing the king in front of this pawn here. You can win when a pawn's like this. You have to get here, and then after check, and when the king walks in front of the pawn, you bring your king closer. And then when he does that, you pin. When he comes down, you check. When he comes over, then you come back here. He has to come back down. You check, and then he comes in front. Then you walk. It's just a move sequence that Jeremy Silman has. when he was a young kid around 14 or 15, his friend says, I bet you know, as kids would say, it's just as a joke. I bet you can't. I can checkmate you with a queen, and he was the one with that was black, and he says, yeah, right, it's a draw. And so his friend showed him this, and he recorded it, and he's used it to win many a games. This, I believe, is this one over here. Though now that we have seen this, that this is winning. These two pawns are winning. I believe this one's a draw because we're going to be going over that in this coming up chapter. So we're going to now move the pawn over to the F file. And now let's see if I gotta turn to white. Let's see if black can draw. He also said his friend also did this one. It says, "I bet you can't you can beat me. You can't beat me in this one." And so he's like, "Oh yeah, I can beat you." So they set up the board and they did this one, and this is the move sequence that Jeremy Silman did. Was check, King E1, King E5. Hold on, let me see. King E1. Oh, bishop. Sorry, Queen E5. King D2. And he learned that Queen E, not F4. What was it? E4? I think it was. Hold on. Hold on. What did I? Hold on. Let me make sure I did this right. Queen B5. That's right. E1, E5. That's right. King D2. Ah, Queen F4. So I was right. King E2. Okay. Queen F3. Queen F3, huh? E4. Check. King D2. And then Queen F3. I was quite proud of myself. He says, I was quite proud of myself. I had finally mastered this winning idea. There was no question in mind that I was going to win this bet. It was a joke. You know how kids say, I bet you can't do this. Yeah, King E1, Queen E3, King F1, King, he's in front now, so we bring our king one step closer. Hooray! At this point, I decided that enough was enough. Okay, I'm going to show you that I know that it is a win. Let's end this. He laughed and he continued to play as his friend did. So he's saying, he's like, Jeremy Silman's like, I'm serious. I'm gonna win this, because last time he thought he was winning, he was going to draw the game. So in his mind, he's got all those moves mastered. But in this scenario, it doesn't win, it draws. And you'll get to see how it works. Queen F4, King E1, E5, okay, F2, King there, okay, King G2. Queen E2 with the pin, remember that? King G1. Queen G4, and then King H2, Queen F3, and then King G. Let me see, King G1. Okay, Queen F3, King G1, Queen G3, and then King to H1. Exclam. This actually is a draw, because if white takes it, it's a draw, and so there is no way to win. He says this, it's stalemate. I froze in my tracks, and suddenly I realized that the game was indeed a draw, since if I played queen takes F2 like I just did here, it is stalemate. White if I check on H3, rook, if he doesn't take, but just comes here, he'll just go back and forth. He'll just keep going back and forth. I just go back and forth and repeat the position until it's a threefold repetition. The B, G, and E and D on the seven almost always lose to a queen. So he's saying that the B file, this whole file here, this almost always loses. This almost always loses. These files almost lose if the pawn's on these files. The file on the C, and the F file, are draws if a queen and pawn. These ones with the lines are winning, and these ones with the dots, this with the dots, are all drawn. And I think these are drawn too. It depends. These ones here are drawn too, I believe. So just try to fight for it. I'll put a line and an arrow through these because it all depends on when the rook pawn, where the king is, and can you get in front of the pawn. So that's kind of the idea. So I'll remember in your endgame studies, the B file, the G file, the E and D file, if a pawn's on the 7th, are the second. A lone queen and king can win. But if there's a pawn on C7 or C2, F2 or F7, it's a draw no matter what, because you just got to see how the draw comes to pass. So that's it's always good knowledge to keep in your back pocket. And there's also one other one. And he says, what about the A and H pawn on the 7th? We've seen how a rook pawn often proves to be an exception in many endgame positions. And this rook, now we're going to set up a rook one, and we're going to take a look at it and see if this is a potential draw. Let's see here, D3, and then the king's right there. White to move and draw. White to move and draw. Often proves to be exception in many endgame positions, and this rook pawn is true, and the rook pawn scenario holds true in this position here. Black draws in Black's drawing idea is in the endgame can be instantly grasped by Queen G3, King H1 exclaim, when the hope for marching the white king via C7 would end up in stalemate, because if we try doing that, it's stalemate. So if we tried then queen after here, if we tried queen to D5, or let's see, how did he do that? Let's see, queen there, oh, queen E1, my bad. I missed a line. Queen E1 check, king there, queen, I think is it E4? E4 here. And if we try checking here, and then it doesn't matter what you do, you could stay close enough to the pawn. So let's see, that's one line that he showed. So here, queen E1, oh, queen G2, queen G2, queen D5, D5. How does he get to D5? Exactly. Trying to, he says queen d5. I'm trying to find d5 here though, but oh, I see what it is. Ah, my bad. Okay, queen g. That's weird. What? How is how did he get d5 here? I'm looking to see d5. This, I'm not sure where. King g2, d5 check. It must be e4 check that he means. King g1. Yeah, I think it may be e4 check. Yeah, and then if he moves his king, we just queen, and we have to trade, and it's a draw. Yep, exactly. This is his wrap up of ideas. This is what he says. In general, in a king and pawn versus lone king position, the weaker side loses if he can't get his king in front of the enemy pawn. If you can't block and stop the pawn from queening, then you're a goner. So that makes sense. That's for that opposition. However, rook pawns often allow all sorts of exceptions, like exactly what Lord's Courage just said, due to the fact that there isn't a file to the side of the pawn, which creates many odd stalemating options. And then he goes on a little further and says, you can garner the result of an outcome of the Treba. This here, I'll spell it out for you. I'm not. It's kind of an odd spelling, so I'll just do this. T. Oops. R-E. I want to make sure I do this right. I think that's the right spelling. Let me see if I spelled it right. Hold on. T-R-E. Yep. B-U-C. Yep. There you go. That. And at this point, it all comes down in this position. The side who is to move will lose in that position. The king and two doubled pawns versus a lone king always wins unless the pawns can't properly be defended, or unless they are rook pawns. 4. Yeah, these are ideas to keep in mind in your endgame. You can calculate the squares of a passed pawn by drawing a diagonal. So we can find out if there's a pawn here. What we do is we draw how far it is here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe. Let me see here. You have to. If the pawn is right here, let me do a pawn. Let me edit the board and show you what he's talking about here. I'll put it over here and over here. Okay, white to move. Oh, yeah, exactly. I just wanted to make sure I was pronouncing it right. So, hey, we got it right. And yeah, so this now, if we go up 2, this is our new, and the king can't come in. But if we stay here, this is our new route, I believe. Let me see here. Yeah, that's the square. So if we move up 1, it'd be here. And if the king can walk into, if the king can walk into b3, then he's in the square. But the cool thing about this, about when it's on the first rank, on the second rank, it can go up 2. So now the new square is this, is here, and even if the king tried, there's no way to stop it, because this is the new square. And so it doesn't matter. And you can't catch it in time. You're way too far. Now that's what he's talking about. Then he's also talking about, we'll set up the position 2 again. This right here. If it's white to move, then white has to plan. If he White has to plan if it's what he's going to do here. So if he goes like back here, you have to plan if you can stop it. If you can't stop it, then it's losing. So in some scenarios, well, I'll have to make it so it's losing for white. Sorry about that. Some reason, maybe it's to do with where it's positioned. Hold on. Here. Let me see. Here. There we go. Now we're good. We'll have it be black to move. Gotta have it be black to move. Black moves. White moves. He takes. So you have to plan at this point when it's black to move. Can you get in front of the pawn here and barricade it like what Jeremy Silman says? If you can, you can draw the game. If you can't, then it's game over. So it's sometimes in this situation, who it is to move loses. Okay, we did the pawn, we did that one. All right, outside pass pawn. We'll set up that, and we'll go over it because this is the conclusion of this chapter. This is considered an outside pass pawn. I'll put a here we go. This is an outside pass pawn because it's really far away, and if black's king was right here, he wouldn't be able to catch it. So outside pass pawns in endgames sometimes are winning. They'll decoy your pawn off to the side. I hope he talks about the chicken coop. Let me see. Outside pass pawns that stand on the side of the main sphere are, this is on the king side. If your king is on the queen side on a8 and there's a pawn on h1, you're white, you're going to queen that pawn. So let's see, since it is so far away from the king and thus poses the problem of promotion, black will have to actually sometimes ditch one side of the board to catch the passed pawn. And he embarks on a long journey, he says, to stop it, but in the process he loses everything. Now we're talking about, he has a small section on the summaries of a minor piece. A bishop and a safe pawn versus a lone king would sound like to be resignable. Yet it can be salvaged if the queening square, we'll get this set up, is not right for the, we'll have this here, actually here. Get these off the board. And if the bishop is this color, it's a draw. So it depends on what bishop color what queening square of the rook pawn is. Do you have the bishop of the color of the queening square? If you do, then you're winning. If you have a bishop color of the opposite color of the queening square, then you're done. You're done for. It's a draw at that point. A knight and a safe pawn. Okay, so we've learned that this here, we're gonna move it. This is a winning. This is winning for white. Oops, sorry. I need to. I put it right on the square of checkmate. There we go. I'll do it here. This is winning. And so now we got to do a knight. We have to bring up the knight. This is a reminder. Okay. Be safe and be blessed. And I'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Play okay. 274. And if even if the king is really close, we've learned that even if the king's right here and it's white to move, the best spot to guard the pawn is oops, why isn't it's black to move? It's white to move. Why can't my pieces move? That's weird. Hold on. Let me pull up another board. Let me get another board brought up. Hold on. Finally, okay. It's connected. Good. Okay, well, do board editor it again. That was so weird. Always in check, that's why. Duh. I should have seen that. Okay, here we go. Sorry, he was in check. I knew there was a problem. Oops, to check again. Ah, he's in check again. Yeah, I gotta do that. Hold on. Drat. I gotta, let me see. How could I do it so that... hold on, I'm trying to... here we go. That's what we'll do. There we go. Now I got it. Sorry about that. I kept putting the king in check. That was a pain in the drain there. And then here, and now the king can't come close, because if he does, this pawn runs up the board. So that's what Jeremy Soon was talking about, a knight protecting it. Okay, let's see if there's any more. Okay. All right, rook. There's also the this one here, because we're doing a refresher here. We'll have the king move. I think I remember how this works. Then you come here. You have to make it so that he can't come here anymore. So let's see, how can we get there? Let's see, we have to get here. So here, and then here. Now he's got to move, and then we push the pawn. So that's how you do it. And if it's black to move, let's say in this line here, we'll say that black is here and it's white to move. This also has happened before too. This type of a mate too. Wait a second, it's white. How come white can't even? There we go. There we go. And that type of a position could arise too if your opponent walks right back there, and you get an opportunity to do that. Sometimes you can get a mate like that. Then we have the holy grail of the systems, which is the Lucinda. I'm just going to set it up. We're not going to play it out. I'll just show you kind of what it looks like. The Lucinda position. This is a Lucinda position here. The whole goal is to check the king here, get the king away, get the king up, bring the king and try to get here, and then block and then queen the pawn. That's the Lucinda position. Then a Philidor's position would be something like this here. Alright, let me see here. I think we had like King of the Hill. I think there was one that was like something like this. And but we had him cut off like this, and then he had our rook cut off like this. And so it was like that. It was like hold on, I better put one more pawn on the board. Let me see. It's something like, it's this here, right here. This is a better scenario. All right, right here. And white to move, and black. All black has to do to hold the game is bring his rook back and forth in a Philidor's position. White moves there. He just moves back. He just waits till his opponent either pushes here or just puts your hand out. That's a Philidor's position. Queen versus lone king. We talked about how I clear the board. C and F pawns are drawn, and if it's like this, C and F pawns. This is a drawn position, and this is a drawn position. These positions are winning. These are winning, and these are usually these pawns are winning. These are usually drawn pawns if there's a lone king on any of these. So that's a drawn position. And let's see here. Okay, I think that's probably good for the night. I'll see if I have anything more that we can. Oh, it did say he has one more endgame thought. He says, wow, that's a lot of material. However, you now have an excellent, solid knowledge of endgame bases that puts you farther ahead than most of your competitors. Competition, and even ahead of players a few hundred rating points higher than you are. Basically, if you're a 1400, this was like a 1600 level section, so you're 200 points higher in your endgame understanding. And he says, trust me, I'll tell you that time well spent in your endgame is very vital. He says, and basically at this point, Jeremy Silman says, you know about passed pawns, you know about opposition, you know about how to basically win when the pawns are like this if you're black and it's versus a lone king. You also know how to protect a pawn from the back, a rook pawn. You know how a knight can actually protect a pawn now so that you can bring your king over and win. You also know how a bishop drawn position looks, all this stuff. He says, but are you ready to go to the next level? Because at this point, you could, in theory, stop his endgame course, he says, and you would have enough to be around 16 to 1800. But he says if you want to go to the next level, that's part 4 or part 5. It's the B class. We're going to be going into the 1800 to 2000 or 16 to 1799, which is B class. And what it does is it's more of a end game pawn. He's going to talk more about pawns than anything. Let's see here. I'll see what we got in forcing. I'll see if we have a small one in here that we can do. Oh yeah, this is a good one. We'll do a quick small one here, and I'll set up the board. Okay. And then I got a log, so I'm probably good. It's going to be a little quick one. So what I'll do is I'll help you with some of the answers, and I'll have you choose rather than have you kind of have to work on it. Boom, boom. Oops, I have to get my rook. Nope, there's only one rook. Just gotta make sure I have all this right. Yep. Okay. White to move. I'll give you 2 minutes to take a decision. To make a decision on what you think the most forcing move for white is. Hey, how you doing? Well, the Scandinavian. It's an interesting opening for sure. Your queen gets chased around a little bit, so it's different. It's kind of more of a you're trying to overexpand your opponent's attack. I've never really liked the Scandinavian, but it is a playable line. I had a couple players play it on me, and I was able to win. But so I've played it a couple of times. There's also the center game that's a pretty good one too. Okay, then let's give you some ideas here. Okie dokie. It should be 5. or let me see. It is an aggressive opening for sure. Very true. I agree with you on that. Yeah, it's really aggressive. But you have to like that style though. So it's all if you're a positional player that it's not to your fancy. Wow, nice job on that. Great work. Great job. That is right. Nice work. E5, correct. Now you take E5, then you take A1 check, King B8, Rook B7, check, King C8, and then Knight to B6, R check, King A8, and then Knight B6, checkmate. Nice work. Nice job. That's a perfect ending to end it on. Okay, do you have any other questions on the forcing lines or anything? Or I have to make sure let's make sure I have it. Okay. Where are we going next? Let's see here. I know, I'll do a quick quiz on your endgame really quick. I'm going to set up a position and I'm going to ask you if it's a draw, and this will give us a little bit of a little bit of time right here. Okay. I have to actually have a, oops, yikes. Clear the board, clear the board. There's the London system. That's always a good opening. There we go. Sorry, I had to get my king right. Is this position a draw or a win for white? Draw or win? Because we're testing our calculation. Draw or win? Yeah, French would be that. That's a good one too. Oh, you're talking about for black. Sorry. Yeah, the French defense. Draw or draw or win. We're doing a quiz here. If you said draw, you're right. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And then draw or win. Yeah, no win. There you go. Draw or win. We're just reviewing just for a 2nd. Draw or win. If you have a bishop that's a dark squared bishop, is it a draw or win? If you say win, you're right. And now we're going to do a little, we just went over this. Yep, got it. Nice work. Now we're going to do a king. This is a little bit tough of one. In this scenario, which pawn, yeah, to win. You got it. You got it. Yeah, you guys are on. Which squares are drawn in these I'm going to set up pawns. Which squares versus a king or a queen like this, which squares are draws if there's a king? Let me see, I'm trying to set this up right. Hold on. Is this a win? Is this a win for white? Yeah, it's a dark square bishop. Is this a win for white or is it a draw? If you have a king, king and queen. Oops, sorry, wrong colored pawns. that would be an interesting. Sorry, this right here. Win or draw? If win or draw with a queen. In this scenario, is this a win or a draw? I'm just putting a pawn there because we went over this, and Jeremy Silman talks about that the F and the C's are draws, and so are these. So these are drawn ones, and these are all winning. The green are all winning ones if it's a pawn on the 7th or an 8. So it's just we were just going to go over a couple of these moves. Always remember that I'll put it in there. I'll write it in. So yeah, but hold on. Let me get this. And then I got a log for the night because getting a little tired here. Let me see here. Oh, let's see. Where is that? He says that A and H, or let me see, I have to do this one here. The C or the C and F on the 7th or on the 2nd. On the 2nd rank. Rank is a draw. Oops, sorry, I gotta put draw. Draw is a draw. I gotta hold on. Let me add this. I have to add this. This is a very vital for you to know. If you're the one that's fighting against a pawn on the 7th, an H, usually an A, an A are the H file, the A file or the H file. If it's on the 7th or on the 2nd, usually is a draw. And on the C, if a pawn's on C2 or C7, it's usually a draw. And if the pawn's on F2 or F7, it's a draw. And I think that's probably a good spot to, because of our review, we'll have to review the section again, but I'm going to call it tonight. So I wanted to leave you with a little bit of knowledge on how you can actually win versus everything else but these here. Just remember that the A and H, if it's on a 7th or the 2nd rank, a pawn's there for white or black, it's usually a draw. If it's a C or an F pawn, 7th or 2nd, it's a draw, even if you have an extra queen, because you'll stalemate them over here when the pawn's here. So, okay, do you have any questions before I log off? Okay. Thank you for all participating. You know what? We're improving. It was a little quicker of one. I didn't get on till a little later. Had some stuff I had to work through and kind of improve on. For work and life in general. You always have those things when you think you're going to be getting home on time, and sometimes you have a little bit extra that you have to do. And you know what? It's a life changing thing sometimes that you have to do, but it's cool. But I'm gonna be on a little earlier tomorrow, so that means we can get into our positional, do more end game, and more forcing chess moves. So we'll be able to do some a little bit more tomorrow. But you know what? We become what we think about. Literally, that's true. And you know what? It's a good thing to think of others rather than yourself, like what the Lord says, because it truly does. You like what Nightingale is right. It truly will become what you are if you don't think of others and you just think of yourself. You'll start looking at the world differently. You have to always remember that your family is what's important, and always treasure that, because you know what, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, and always blessed be the name of the Lord. It's you know what, I remember on Brink there was this one show that a lot of people separate from their families for money and stuff, and she said this to Brink: everybody needs the money, but it's not about the money, it's about the family. And that's what you got to remember is money is temporal, and once it's exchanged in, it's gone. But your family and people who care about you are forever. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's why you should always serve the Lord and receive the Lord always, because he cares for you more than life itself. Okay, but like what Yazzer says though, for end game openings and middle games, the hardest thing to do is your very first step. Every long journey begins with one small step. That's what Yazzer Sarawan says. And like what you have to treasure your victories and learn from your losses, and remember that mistakes do not define you. It's how you handle the mistake that defines you. And knowing is not enough, you must apply. Willing is not enough, you must do. And like there are no limits to the human potential. The Lord has made us marvelously made. You know what I mean? And that we can, whatever we set our mind to, good or bad, we can do. So always make it be good. So just keep that in mind. The potential that the Lord's giving you as a talent is a marvelous thing, and never take it for granted. And like what the Chess Cruncher motto is, don't give up, get up, and remember, Bruce Lee feared not the man who has practiced 10,000 individual kicks, but he feared the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks, one kick 10,000 times. So if you constantly focus on like end game, middle game, get a good opening, and kind of learn some of the basis around it. But if you do the middle game and the end game, you'll find that your play improves, because openings for about 15 moves. If you could survive the opening, you get into the, as Gary Kasparov says, the black and white jungle. And that's where you have to cut through all the vines and brush and everything to find your opponent. It comes down to basically guerrilla warfare at that, in some positional plays, who can outlast the other person. That's excuse me. But what we have to remember is that the Lord's the center of, it has to be the center of your learning, and never forget to bring him in with you in chess and in any field that you have. Because trust me, as it is spoken, it says, as it is written, it says that he'll give us wings that we can fly, and we can run and not be weary, and walk and not faint. So you know what I mean. So if that's a promise, I believe that. And if he is for us, who can be against us? So always keep that in mind. And remember, the one thing though is to have fun in chess. Whatever the outcome is, learn from it and do better next time. Take it home, learn from it, keep pushing forward, and always remember, age isn't important. It's about that chess is fun, and you will progress if you go in there calm, focused, and not so stressed that you have to win all the time. So, great job, and keep push and play always. And if you like what you see and you are listening, click follow and join us. I'm on all every night, unless I have business trips, which I usually don't. But sometimes I do. So, but usually that's far and very few and far between. So that's that. And you know what? Always remember, serve the Lord. And remember, what do we do as chess crunchers? I almost forgot. Like Tigger, we have to do our chess cruncherism. It's this: when you're studying and most are playing, you can, and they come over and say, "What you doing?" "I'm a chess cruncher." What's a chess cruncher? A chess cruncher hangs up their coat, they hang up their hat, they sit down and study when most won't. They do, and that makes all the difference. So you're a chess cruncher. When you come to Chess Cruncher TV and study, you're a chess cruncher. So congratulations on that. And I'll leave you with that. As Wesley So says to the Lord Jesus, and as I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, and evening, and Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow, and we'll keep pushing forward in honoring the Lord with the talents that we're given, and having fun, and keep push and play, and you know what? And just doing our best and learning. That's the whole point. Okay. Great job. Go Team Chess Cruncher, and hoorah, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.